Well, greetings again, everyone. It's Nick Michalak and the magnificent Steve Frazier.
Well, hello.
And this is Steve's 100th commentary he's recorded for the channel.
I am super stoked.
And double bill, basically, on that regard, is also the 35th anniversary of Aliens from James Cameron.
Who is one of my favorite directors.
Yes. So, we're watching the special edition version, which runs almost 2 hours and 40 minutes long, so...
Is this the longest one we've ever done?
Yes, it is.
All right. Buckle up, buckaroos.
We'll see if... might be game over for your voice by the end of this. We'll see how it goes.
It might be over before it begins.
Here we go. Any which way, guys. So...
we did watch the little James Cameron intro first before we started this, so our timestamp is to 0 after the James Cameron intro.
Yes. So, this is a special edition. Get your subtitles turned on. Timestamp to 0 on that regard. We can go with the countdown and move forward. So, in 3, 2, 1, play.
God, I love James Cameron. I can't believe it's been 35 years. He was on a nice little run, Jim Cameron here.
Yeah, it was the interesting thing how he got involved with the film, because obviously he was going into the Terminator and everything like that, and that was getting a little talk around town as it was starting to get up to gear. But so one of the producers on this film eventually got a hold of the script, and it's like, once it came time to kind of start developing things and move forward with the new staff on call for 20th Century Fox, it's like, this guy's script was really impressive. Maybe
Paul Reiser, third billing, by the way. Interesting. Third billing for Paul Reiser.
So he was like, well, maybe this Cameron guy can put together something really nice and everything like that. And
now, is this, he had already written Rambo? Or no?
Well, the fact of the matter is that this was probably around 1983.
Oh, so this is before.
This is about 1983, because they were going to go into production on the Terminator, but then the producer on the Conan films pulled Arnold away to make the sequel to that, Conan the Destroyer. So now Cameron's got like this 9-month window of basically nothing to do until Arnold's freed up again. So he starts working on a treatment and the script and everything like that for an Alien sequel.
James Horner, not to cut you off, but they mentioned James Horner came across the screen. Yeah. And he's worked with Cameron on multiple films, I believe.
Well, he worked on this one, he worked on Titanic. He might have been Avatar as well, I'm not sure.
So maybe it's just those. I know he won an Oscar for Titanic, but I had thought that he was with him, it was like a partnership.
I'll get around to him later on. There's other stories there, but just in terms of the script,
Gail Hurd.
Cameron never got the actual script finished before he finally went into the Terminator, but they're like, we like what you've written so far so much, we were going to put everything on hold until you're freed up and get you on as writer and the director and all this type of stuff to get into this. And
so it just sat for 3 years.
The Rambo Part 2 one was basically like, Cameron says he mainly just wrote like the action sequences, and Stallone wrote all the other stuff in the whole thing, but it was probably just a in-between gig to just keep paying the bills and everything.
Well, Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Who had first billing on this... That looks great, by the way. I don't know what this is, if it's a model or if it's a...
Yeah, all models.
Right, because it's in 1986. And Stan Winston did the special effects, I believe.
Well, he did all the stuff with the aliens themselves. This is a completely different company doing visual effects.
Got it. That smoke across the... Looks awesome. Everything looks awesome. Robots. James Cameron loves a robot. James Cameron is so great.
kind of interesting thing when they're doing the trailers for Terminator 2. They use like this exact same thing It's like a laser swipe thing across the screen for like title text.
Well, I mean, if you have something that works,
yeah,
go back to it, right?
Effect, yeah.
And it looks, I mean, it's beautiful. And we're to assume here that the ship is landed.
Well, this is a scavenger team. They just came across it floating in space.
Oh, right. Because I was talking about the models. I see. Nice little effect with the dust and the or ice or whatever it is. Jonesy! All these movies are based on a salvage gone wrong.
That's bad.
Oh, there we have North America.
Very, very good matte painting there. And
it's awesome.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's friggin' beautiful. It's very white. It's very sterile. Yeah. It's very...
I was going to say, it's a bit interesting to note that Cameron was shooting 185 here where they did CinemaScope. Because Cameron did special effects before, like Escape from New York and a bunch of Corman films and everything like that. And the anamorphic lenses really made a lot of problems from trying to do, like, matte paintings and optical effects and trying to line things up after the fact and everything. So
he just shot it flat. Yeah.
He never shot anything on anamorphic lenses. So Terminator in this, he does 185 and everything he does until he gets digital. It's on Super 35 and he mats it off to 2.35.
So I've always been, like, this has been my least favorite part of this movie, is the fact that people go into the stasis or whatever and can be in there for decades and not age. Like, it just goes against human biology. But like, that's longer than, Paul Reiser's been alive at this point, or possibly Paul Reiser's dad.
Yeah. I mean, the 57 years thing is, for the purposes of story one, the whole thing where she has, with her daughter and everything, that she, as we see later on, there's a whole thing where it's been 57 years.
Right, her daughter has grown up and...
Yeah, she's not around. She's not alive anymore.
Right, yeah.
And also the whole thing of, like, if it was a couple months or even, like, 5 years, them to settle a colony and start doing terraforming, it would be a lot more contrived to get it done in that short period of time. So he kind of built that in for both the emotional reasons for her story and the other facilitations of the plot.
I guess if you weren't familiar with the trailer, you could assume that maybe there was an alien inside of her here.
Yeah.
Getting ready to... Well, I guess that's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Jonesy's like, what the hell, lady? And apparently this whole, like, go in the time capsule and you never age also works for cats, which live a fraction of the amount of time
yes.
that adults live. Humans. I mean, that cat is like 300 years old in cat years at this point.
I don't think they used the same cat from the first film. They probably just...
Well, no, I mean...
No, I'm just commenting behind the scenes wise. I'm sure they 7 years later, they didn't just...
Well, no, that cat was dead.
Cat already, yeah.
Just to show how fragile cat life is.
Right. This is the first scene that's added back into the film post-theatrical cut.
This here?
Yeah, because this starts her storyline about the daughter. In the theatrical cut, it's basically not even... It's non-existent.
Got it. I guess if you're gonna chop something out, the daughter storyline is nice, but it's ancillary. It doesn't actually...
Yeah, the thick of the plot in regards. Because I just watched the theatrical cut for the first time 2 days ago.
Okay.
And I like the theatrical cut more based on just the way it's paced and structured, because it just feels much more paced like a regular action film. This one's a lot more drawn out to a certain extent because of all these additional character plots and story arcs and stuff like that that Cameron added into it. And they're in there to make the film more full and more substantive, but the theatrical cut moves better for a more of a fast-paced, lean, straight-to-the-point action film. But even then, if I still wanted that quality, I would still want this plot in the film. I'd like to splice these at least back into that version, because I think you lose a lot of it without these.
I can't imagine chopping, 20 minutes even, like out of Terminator or Titanic or any of these other movies.
Yeah.
Like The Abyss, okay, you could get rid of some stuff in there.
And she earned her Oscar nomination without that scene, without this entire plot on the whole
Right,
film.
right.
And I'm saying right now, she damn well earned that goddamn Oscar nomination.
Oh, she's tremendous.
Oh, just watching her in this film, just like she commands everything. You can tell, yeah, she exudes a certain, not just a confidence, but just like the way of, she feels like she's a full-fledged, seasoned film actor.
Yeah, the camera definitely goes to her.
She gravitates the attention.
Right.
This is a nice shot here.
Yeah, I like these around the table kind of shots.
The way the light does look a little on the futuristic, neon future type of idea.
Guy's losing some hair up top.
Yeah, he's not doing well.
It's thinning, very. Well, you blew one out.
Yeah.
It's a bad suit. It's a bad haircut, lady. Like,
They did some. They wanted to have a slight futuristic business attire, but they didn't want to get weird with it or anything like that. So they have like the guys with their turned up lapels and stuff like that. It's like, oh well, whatever. She looks like she's just wearing a guy's suit here. It's not doing well.
yeah, no, it's bad. I do like the idea that nobody, not necessarily doesn't believe her, but that they find it hard to believe that her account is exactly truthful.
And also the fact, like, you blew up a $40 million piece of corporate property for this thing.
And that's $40 million in $1978.
87. Or any which way. Any which way it is, yeah. It's clearly Cameron writing like almost like a studio executive. Oh, you wasted this much money on this thing?
There you go.
That type of crap.
He knows exactly.
He knows his corporate crap. Yeah.
NOC 144.
You can kind of see between the two photos. Like, yeah, she does look 7 years older because it's shot 7 years older, but she still looks wonderful.
I mean, for aging 57 years.
Right. In a
You know, it was only...
in a cryo sleep type of tube, so...
So really, she gained 50.
Right. So...
Her hair's on point.
You look good for 87.
Yeah, exactly.
87 years old is what I mean. I'd say she's probably roughly around that then. 30 at the most in the first film.
Oh, yeah. I think we looked it up.
I think you're younger than that, but I don't know.
This is an interesting twist that we have had. We've had people living on this extra planet or whatever. People have been talking about, like, you know, building on the moon or building on Mars or whatever.
Right.
In, you know, real life. And it never seems feasible. But here, Jim Cameron just whipped up, you know, oh, make it so. Oh, all right.
Yeah, well...
And they made it pretty believable.
Well, also, it's like, this, from when the film was made, this is like 140 years in the future or something like that.
Sure.
No. And so, like, they build these atmospheric processors that kind of at least create an ecosystem where they can survive and everything like that.
In your research, did they explain where the Hadley name came from?
I have no idea.
I thought maybe it was a nod to somebody or something that...
I don't know.
I mean, it could just been a name on a phone book.
I have a friend whose last name is Hadley, so he has a fun time with that in the film.
I went to school with some Hadleys.
But yeah, all this stuff on the planet now is all added back in. None of this existed. Everything, kind of like in the first act, it just almost exclusively follows Ripley until you get on the planet. Then there's the alien attack almost an hour into the film.
Another good camera shot of from a distance, you know, following this guy.
It was kind of interesting because so this scene gets cut out of the theatrical cut of Aliens. Then a couple years later, Cameron does almost an identical scene for Terminator 2, where you're introducing Miles Dyson in the Cyberdyne laboratory and everything like that. It's like a complete Steadicam tracking shot with him chatting with another guy to kind of lay out the groundwork of what they're doing, all this type of stuff. So
he knows what he likes.
Didn't get to use it there. I'll end up using it over here.
He knows what he likes. Here we have another
Danny Torrance again.
Another Danny Torrance, right? Yes. Everything is an homage. It's interesting that the film looks so good that you could almost tell these are models.
Yeah.
Like, if you, on the old crappy VHS, you didn't see the granular detail, and this didn't look like a toy rolling across the ground.
Yeah, I've had a little perceptive issues with some of the visual effects on the film, even though it won the Oscar for it.
Is that a Blockbuster Video?
Well, where?
This square thing has a logo on it. The thing right in the center.
I didn't see no logo.
They shot it from the side, and it looked like the Blockbuster Video logo.
Mm-hmm. It's a little early for Blockbuster.
I'm sure they were around.
Yeah, I think they're fairly new, though.
They didn't come into our area until, like, the 90s. Mm-hmm. And they were the expensive video rental place. Mm.
Oh, yeah.
It was far away.
Everyone keeps saying,
see how it kind of looks like the Blockbuster Video logo?
Maybe a tad, but yeah.
I don't know.
Everyone keeps saying, let's bring back Blockbuster. Blockbuster was the worst.
Well, yeah.
They're the worst chain out there. It's the last place I want to come back. Bring back any other video chain that was out there except Blockbuster. They were terrible. Overcharged you.
I mean, their gimmick when they first started was that they were, 3 times more expensive, but you get to keep it for a longer amount of time.
But then they have all the edited versions of the film. You can't have an unrated version. You can't have films with this stuff in it. You have to...
Right.
Stuart had to create a different version of the film just to get it into a Blockbuster rental store.
Blockbuster never had an adult section in the back corner.
No.
I mean, they were a corporate level. You couldn't go in the back and get Debbie Does Dallas.
Yeah.
I've never seen Debbie Does Dallas, by the way.
No love for Blockbuster, no. Not at all. Yeah, with the derelict ship, I guess they did keep it in storage somewhere. They had to dig it up from somewhere and clean it up. Got all dusty and everything, and I think it was almost falling apart at a certain point, so they had to do a little...
And you're saying that this is one of the set pieces from the first film?
Well, no, just for the outside, the model.
Oh, okay. And we were on a rant about Blockbuster. Were we to believe that they were not supposed to be out exploring in this other area?
I imagine so.
I didn't know if there was dialogue that said...
I mean, it's such a weird thing, because the whole thing with the Weyland-Yutani company, the whole thing, they're supposed to be the evil corporate manipulators and deceivers, stuff like that. Do they know that the ship's there and they never went into it? Because it seems like they would have found it.
Right.
Setting up this colony.
Clearly, it's like right there.
But then you have later on the Paul Reiser character. He's all about, well, let me capture some of the alien species so I can bring it back. We can do testing and military biological warfare with it.
Right, it was right in front of you the whole time.
So it doesn't quite connect as much because, like, okay, if the companies, even from the first film, the whole thing is with Ash and everything like that, it's like crew expendable, bring back the specimen organism, whatnot.
There was clearly a log of where it was. They knew where they landed. Yeah. They even had a name for the planet or whatever it was.
Well, yeah, just a basic name for it, yeah. But just like, okay, there's no way they set up the colony there and not explore enough to find the damn thing, because obviously it's within a short drive from the goddamn freaking colony. So if they're so intent on getting this organism, wouldn't they have sent a team in there to collect some samples or something like that? It's a little...
Kabuki-ish.
Yeah, it's a little flimsy on that regard. It doesn't quite connect.
It's thin, for sure. Oh, cup of coffee. Yeah. Cheers.
I like our hairstyle now that they kind of cropped it. It's a little 80s.
It is a little 80s. As you know, I prefer a longer hair.
Yeah.
I think the long hair with that curl works better on the long hair.
Yeah.
It's a little helmety.
Yeah.
You know who looks absolutely great, though? Paul Reiser.
Oh, yeah. I can see, like, okay, you go...
Just don't let him drive the Ferrari.
Just on a production standpoint, you go with the shorter hair because she's going to be in a lot of action sequences. It's going to be, like, wind blowing around. It's a little easier to maintain on a production level.
Yeah, but I think the look she had in later films with the buzz cut was even better.
Oh, yeah.
This is like,
Yeah. Looks better in some scenes than others.
She's like downgraded to...
Yeah.
Lowest man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Basically laborer.
Yeah, suspended your flight license and everything like that, so...
A little cream in the coffee.
Oh, that thin tie has got going on.
I do like a skinny tie. There was a period when... Yeah, I like a skinny tie. There were periods when...
Paisley.
Ties... Oh, right. Oh, God, I hate a Paisley.
Burn it up.
The fat tie, the extra wide.
Oh, yeah, the 70s polyester look.
I just don't like the wide tie.
No.
But a skinny tie, I think, is a good look. I've got a few.
Works for him.
Obviously, the thinner you are, the better it works.
Oh, yeah. Wouldn't work on me.
Well, maybe not.
Gotta be a little proportional.
I also would not put you in a wide tie either because they're awful.
No.
They're awful. Regular tie for you.
I prefer no tie.
I love a tie.
It's never worked for me.
I wore a shirt and tie for years and years.
Nice business card look.
The clear.
Looks nice.
There's a People magazine there. Interesting. I wonder if we could figure out what issue that is so we can figure out what time they shot this.
On the cover there.
I can't figure it out.
Christ. Yeah, our old friend Eric Woltman. He's got a aluminum business card from way back.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Shout out to Eric, DP extraordinaire.
Yes.
We got to get back to making something.
Yeah.
It's been far too long.
Yeah, it is.
I can't believe that we're coming up on 5 years of doing these commentaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't believe I've done 100 now. And at least 90 of them with actual vocal cords. Trust me, it's just as frustrating for me as it is for everyone out there.
Yes.
I do find it, also another thing I dislike about this movie, and the first one, is that they only ever use the last names. And we talked about this a little bit so that they could be kind of ambiguous in gender or race
this one
or whatever.
doesn't go. I mean, they reveal her first name is Ellen. She's Ellen Ripley. He's Carter Burke. But yeah.
But they refer to them by their last name, especially on the crew, on the ship.
Well, for the military guys, it makes sense.
Sure. I just have a hard time.
And it factors in a lot later in the film where there's an added scene between Hicks and Ripley.
And see, by you saying Hicks, I gotta scratch my brain
Michael
to think
Biehn.
Which one is which. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you just said Bill, I'd have been like, oh, at least that narrows it down. I know I'm there.
Right.
Which guy is it?
But yeah, Michael Biehn's character. I mean.
I just have a terrible memory when it comes to things like that.
Okay.
I can tell you dates and random trivia from 1987, but you give me a list of characters and ask me to, play a match game. Fuck, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll probably be asking which one is Burke later on, even though you just told me that Paul Reiser is Burke. To me, he's always Jeffrey in the Ferrari.
Jeffrey Friedman. Mario and Jeffrey Friedman is the goddamn Ferrari.
And that was after this, right?
Yeah.
This was summer of '86.
Yes.
Because we're doing 35th anniversary.
Yeah. It was a little contentious thing in regards to how Fox scheduled releases, because John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China came out like 2 weeks before this, but because they were so heavy on promoting Aliens, that film got the shaft.
Okay.
They didn't promote it as well.
Is that also a Fox film?
A 20th Century Fox film. The last studio picture John Carpenter ever made, because he got so upset dealing with them. And the fact that they kind of shafted not promoting it very well or very strongly or certainly as widely as this thing was, because, okay, they put them 2 weeks apart. You got to choose one or the other you're going to put as much money into.
Or both, equal.
And there was so much a thing with the post-production on Aliens that even like James Horner's like, he didn't have enough time to really score the film he wanted to, because once he got onto the film in England, they're still shooting stuff, they're still editing the film. He doesn't have a completed lockdown film to actually edit, so they're chasing up to a deadline. It's like, well, if you push it off a couple weeks, it would have been beneficial towards everyone. If you pushed Aliens back a couple weeks, that would give them more time to do the post-production properly as they wanted to do, to edit it and put all the stuff together, and you would have had more time for Carpenter's film to maybe have a little bit of time to breathe in the marketing vein of everything, so they kind of shot themselves in the foot to a degree on that regard.
Well, there's also a lot of politics involved with the scheduling, and you can't just say, I want this date and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you have to negotiate for a date, more so now than back then, because, back then there were only 250 movies that came out every year.
Right.
And now there's 600.
Yeah.
So it is, it was probably easier to rearrange back then. However, if, we're in the summer, and summer really wasn't a huge deal as it is now. Mm-hmm. It was becoming, I think in the 80s, summer became a thing. But, it might have been, without looking at the list of movies that came out in 86, it's hard to say, but if, Paramount and Disney and all those folks had already snagged up the dates 3-4 weeks later.
Right.
This wasn't the era where two big movies could come out on the same weekend.
Yeah, and duel it out.
Right. I mean, it happened.
Because also there's not as many screens out at that point in time as there is now.
Right. A multiplex had 5 screens.
Right.
That was a big house.
Now they got 20.
Or more.
Yeah.
Not to say that it didn't happen, because I think like Ghostbusters and something else came out on the same day. Gremlins, right. But I don't know if the studio planned on either of those being big hits. Gremlins certainly wasn't a huge hit. At least it's not as big as... At least
has the Spielberg backing, so you have a little...
cachet,
little perception into like, okay, well, it'll sell to a certain extent. Even then, just like, okay, Fox...
There's our boy here.
Fox takes 2 kind of summer tentpole films and put them right next to each other on the schedule that... Even months out, it just seemed kind of a odd choice.
Here's our boy, Lance Henriksen.
Oh, yeah.
Bill Paxton, who is a Cameron go-to, he's such a whiny bitch.
He plays that a lot of times, but he went on to do a lot of really solid dramatic work, too.
I'm not saying he isn't good, but he has a tone about him that is so whiny that it actually makes my face hurt. I can't listen to him. I love him.
People really love him in this whole film as Hudson. I do feel like it gets a little too goofy how he reacts to everything. Everything's an over-the-top comedic reaction.
And I feel like his whole career is like that, to a degree. I know we had the... So I get her point here. We'll come back to Lance Henriksen.
The last one that freaked out on him.
Right. I mean, she had...
wanted to kill them all.
Absolute understandable reason to be weary.
Mm-hmm.
But, in their defense, it has been, 50 years of technology.
She doesn't know anything beyond just like the last one I dealt with turned into a freaking schizoid maniac. That was willing to sacrifice all of us just to bring back a alien organism. Mm-hmm.
He did throw in a line there about how his directive is he cannot harm another human by action or refusal of action.
Yeah, right.
And I think that does come into play a little bit later.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was going to say, we had a great time at a convention one time sitting in a Lance Henriksen panel where, I don't know if he talked about this movie as much.
He talked a little bit about Near Dark because he ends up working again with Bill Paxton and Jenette Goldstein. And the three of them really had a good time working on this and on that, too.
He's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
So I recommend if he's coming to a town or a convention near you, he's worth the money.
Yeah.
What a great scene. Normally, recap scenes such as these are
a little tedious.
They're off-putting.
Yeah.
They don't work as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this one works perfectly.
Yeah. I don't know if they'd get away with her being cast as the Hispanic woman today, because that's Jenette Goldstein. She's not a Hispanic woman. They bronzed her up and everything.
They bronzed her.
Dyed her hair dark and everything for her.
And she's putting on a fake accent here?
Yeah.
She's working the accent?
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
that wouldn't go over smooth today.
Well, that's because today everybody's upset about everything.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I think they would definitely write, minority or persons of color into the cast.
But they would seek out someone.
They would actually cast an actual Latina.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this particular case, the folks that would be upset about that actually have a right to be upset about it. Like,
sure,
why wouldn't you just cast somebody? Now, granted, we're not involved in the casting process. Mm-hmm. We don't know what went into. Maybe they screen tested 50 of them, and none of them worked. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Mm. That was a great scene to learn everybody's name, and I just didn't pay attention. So I'm just fucked.
Well, later on we'll have.
I mean, thank God for the subtitles. God, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not even a space guy. I don't like science fiction. But it could happen to me is my go-to mantra.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ellen Ripley is a Joe Everyman. Granted, she's a specialist in her field, but she's just a regular person who has been thrust into extraordinary circumstances.
Right.
Not once, but twice.
Yes.
And I can relate. These things are cool. Kind of similar to the ones in Avatar, actually. Mm-hmm. Now that which also has Sigourney Weaver in it, by the way.
Yeah.
Did you like Avatar?
I've never seen it.
Okay. It's pretty much a science fiction version of Dances with Wolves, but but that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Now, are you aware of the casting situation with Michael Biehn on the film?
I'm not. I don't know anything about anything.
He was not originally cast in the film. They originally cast James Remar from The Warriors in 48 Hours in the role because he got recommended from Walter Hill, who's the producer on these films. But I guess a week or two or something like that into production, he got hit up on a drug possession charge.
Oh.
And he got fired. And they had to bring Michael Biehn in over a weekend to take over the role. I guess
that's got to be so frustrating for everybody.
And it kind of... Apparently he didn't work again with Walter Hill until 94, 95.
That'd be so much fun to work that robot thing. What are these futuristic guns?
They modified a few different things, like a Thompson military machine gun, and
this thing is wicked.
Well, these rigs are actually from Steadicams.
I was going to say, it looks like a Steadicam.
Yeah.
I wonder whose idea that was. Who came up with the idea to turn a Steadicam rig into a weapon? Because clearly that isn't what James Cameron wrote in the screenplay.
No.
That is something that somebody interpreted.
Yeah, they brought in some conceptual designers. I think they worked on... I think they worked on Blade Runner and a couple different things, so they had a futurist mentality
Speaking
already.
Of futurist, look at this thing.
Yeah. That was the interesting thing, that entire ATV or whatnot, when they're showing the interior scenes, they're much larger than what the thing would be on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
So they built the interior larger than what the actual thing was built as for the exterior.
I think that's a pretty standard movie-going thing, you know. It's like when they show an exterior of a house, and then you go in the house, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, that's not how this house is laid out. Sometimes they don't even try.
Yeah. It was like in Halloween. It's like when Jamie Lee is running away from Michael Myers in the house. The doorknob's on this side, on the outside of the thing.
It's on the other side.
Go inside the door. The thing's on the other side of the thing. I got things falling down the background here.
Well, that's all right.
So yeah,
the whole house is coming down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like they're going on a roller coaster ride there.
Yeah, it's like a ride at freaking Epcot or something.
I'm shocked that 20th Century Fox isn't involved in a theme park in some way. I know they do like a studio tour, but
I don't know now because they're owned by Disney. I don't know what the deal is.
Right.
I know there is like an Avatar land that they've might have just constructed or something like that. It's something in the process.
Well, that would make sense because there's still the 2 new Avatar films coming out.
Been delayed like 7 times.
Yeah, that was Christmas of 2009.
Yeah,
I think
the next one's supposed to come out like 2012 and then 2014 or something like that, and it's just he's doing like 5 sequels or something, man.
I also recall Jim's Cameron saying at some point that he would never again make a movie that was not in 3D. And I was like, oh, James, you lost me.
You lost me, yeah.
Because Avatar was absolutely stunning in 3D. But I don't know. I'm so thankful that 3D has now since gone by the wayside. And that it's not really a thing.
They don't promote it anyway. I mean, they still do a couple 3D screenings here and there, but it's not much of a thing.
I mean, for a while there, it was every movie.
Like, I mean, they just put out Black Widow for Marvel. Like, they still did a 3D post-conversion on that and put it out to a couple of theaters, but you're not going to see it on home video.
Right, right. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this guy's been sitting behind a desk.
How did
taking a snooze?
How did Mario Andretti end up?
Friedman
end up on this trip? I mean, isn't he like he's also just a corporate guy?
No, he's a corporal.
Oh. Well, they could have cast that better, I think, because he's a nerd.
He's not as butch as the other people, yeah.
I just don't buy. I don't buy him as the military guy.
Mm.
He seems like The Office, you know.
Mm. There you go. Just bash it around a little.
I like it. I like it. Is that tattoo real in his... No, it can't be. On the inside of his left arm there.
I didn't catch that.
I just don't recall ever seeing it ever again.
Mm.
He's too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But he does it well.
Yeah, he does it well. I do feel like some of the Marine characters just feel a little too cartoonish for me. When you had in the first film with all the characters with Dallas and everything like that, had a real texture to them. They feel real. They felt like real, proper people. These feel a little bit more characterish.
Whoa, this is Back to the Future here. That's very Top Gun, okay. We'll just borrow a little bit from every hot movie.
And Top Gun would have come out about 2 months before this.
That's actually a pretty genius thing to, like, simulate an atmosphere inside a building. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works if it, breaches or breaks down or... Some more great, like, B-roll footage here over a model that doesn't matter because you're just going to grain it out and make it look like...
Slap it on slap it on an old VHS or some Betacam video camera.
Yeah, that... You could tell that, like, one of those was the model, and one, the remote control, and one wasn't.
Yeah.
This might all be remote control, actually. That thing might only be 6 inches big.
I always had the thing with the model of that ATV, it just never felt like it had enough weight for the size of what it's supposed to be. It always felt little off how they photographed it.
Did they explain how the atmosphere was simulated in the building, but also outside the building? Because they're just running around on the outside of the building.
Yeah.
And
because in the first one they had to wear the atmospheric suits and everything.
Right. Newt and her family were just out and about.
Right. So,
when they were...
I mean, it says it's all terraforming and everything like that, but still, it still looks about as horrible of a freaking environment as it was in the first movie.
And doesn't rain imply that there's
oxygen,
moisture in the air, oxygen and
hydrogen, oxygen,
and moisture on the ground?
Right.
Water?
Yeah. So.
I think this is a giant oversight on the part of the filmmakers. There is no rain on a planet with no water. I don't know how I never noticed this before or thought of it. That's hilarious. Unless they man-made an ocean somewhere that... Okay, and this is the colony, right, where the actual residents of the planet live.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. And it looks like it's been through hell and back.
All right.
They walked onto the set of Jason X right here.
Oh, God, no. Like 1 square foot of this set had more time, attention,
character,
and quality put into it than the entirety of Jason X.
Available now in the archives if you want to go back and revisit the worst movie ever made.
And be miserable for 90 minutes.
Aside from the one scene with the, liquid nitrogen or whatever it was.
See, I got all the names on the video monitors. That's all you need.
Well, you can give me a list of names. That doesn't mean I know which face it goes with. I think I got Hicks down.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a Hudson and a Gorman, and I don't know which one is which.
Once you start killing some people off,
Yeah, well, it does get easier.
It'll be easier to figure it out.
Yeah,
eh?
right. It's like the Survivor series.
Yeah.
They start dropping like flies here in a minute, and then... So far, the story is very believable in that Ripley is staying back. She's on the other ship.
Right.
She's basically a consultant.
Yeah, that's what they said. Well, I can guarantee you won't be in the field, you won't be in any danger, you'll lay back and you'll just observe.
And we've got all of these rough and ready cowboys who are, gonna go kick some ass.
Yeah.
And they think it's just a quick little drive-by.
Yeah, I mean, when she's given the briefing and everything, they're like, they think it's just a pile of horse shit or something like that. They don't take any of it seriously.
And if they do, they assume that it's 1 or 2 or 3 organisms, and not breeding like rabbits.
They'll be in and out of here in no time.
And they're now learning that, well, maybe what she was saying actually wasn't bullshit after all. Gerbils. All right. A negative situation.
A little too small for the face hugger.
Well, maybe. You. Here we have the mysterious acid blood.
Mm-hmm.
That looks so awesome. Like it just ate through the steel. This place is dead, I think, is a great line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is it, though? That car is pretty neat. I imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger would be the first one to have one if they made them street legal, as he was the Hummer. In my attempt to block out Alien 3 from my memory, did that one take place on this same planet?
No.
Okay. There's something so great about the visual of the doors slamming shut.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very detailed set. In a lot of ways, even more so than the last one. Because the last one was just a spaceship.
It was a lot,
so
in comparison, a lot cleaner type of thing. Here they're having to do a lot more damage.
Right, and it's also a bigger space, whether they used a bigger space, I don't know. But the idea is that this is a colony as opposed to just a small little ship.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more places for them to go.
Right.
I imagine the budget was 10 times what the first one was.
It was about $18 million. I don't know what the first one was offhand. We'll have to figure that one out.
Let me see if I can do an inflation calculator. And figure out what that would be.
First one was $11 million. So they...
Okay, and the first one came out in 78?
79.
79, okay. So in 1979, 11 million is the equivalent of 41 million in today's dollars.
That sounds about right. You could make that same film for about $40 million today.
Okay. And then in 1986, what did we say this one was?
18.
18. I love the inflation calculator.
Yes.
Interesting. It says that in 1986, 18 million is only 44 million today.
Okay.
So it really is about the same budget.
Yeah. But it was such a... Because this one is a lot more expensive because you're doing action set pieces. You got explosions and gunfire going off and a few other different things. A lot more involved visual effects to a certain degree because you're doing it with the pyrotechnics and all the other... A lot more model work, so there's a lot more things that stretch it across.
I just think it's interesting because by this one, we're having to pay salaries for
a lot
more people and bigger name people.
Right.
In the first one, there really wasn't a lot of big name.
Yeah, John Hurt, Tom Skerritt were big enough, like huge names, but but they're established, reliable names.
And I guess this one has some established reliables, but
yeah. Well, Sigourney got paid about $1 million for the film, and she even had to kind of force a negotiation on that. They're always going to not pay her the money, and they told Cameron to write a version of the script without her in it, and he refused to do it.
Get out of here! She's worth every bit of that $1 million.
And she got, even when she came back for Alien 3, she negotiated even a lot more money for it. I don't know if she ever got a producer credit on any of the films. I think she was just mainly the actress, the lead actress. Since
I had it up, $1 million in '86 is the equivalent of 2.47 today. Okay. So $2.5 million for 2 months worth of work.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Sure.
We did kind of gloss over in that they've now discovered the facehuggers and realized that everything she said was true.
Right.
And, oh, by the way, she's on site here, and, oh, shit, what's happening?
Which kind of connects pieces back to when you had the family going out on the expedition there, so... The father gets a facehugger on, so they probably bring him back here, and then they probably send another team out there to investigate and bring more samples back, and that's what ends up wreaking havoc on everything.
Right. Great hair on Newt. And I don't mean that because I think that people should wear their hair like that, but I think that for a little girl who's been living in the tunnels of the ship in fear.
I'm trying to think of a rock star with his hair.
Well, we need a better look at it.
Yeah. Just lacking Aquanet.
That looked like...
hairspray to get it out on the 80s level.
There were some of those scenes there where it didn't look like an actual child. They might have used a little person.
Sure.
For some of the stunt work.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Look at her little bedroom here. This is great. Yeah, we'll come up with a 1986 comp for this hairdo here in a second. I was going to say Sebastian Bach, but that was a little bit later on.
It would have been about right, but a few years early. It's not quite Dee Snider levels, you know?
Well, no, nobody was. No, nobody was.
He's awesome, though, man.
I can't imagine being, 9 or whatever she is.
Mm-hmm.
And
apparently, it was such a difficult thing they were trying to cast this role because apparently, because they're shooting everything in the UK, and most of the little actresses they could find all were like commercial actors. So like after everything, as you're doing commercials, you're bright, you're peppy, you're a very smiley type of thing. So
sure.
Like every time they delivered a line, they end up with a smile on their face, everything like that. So they weren't film conditioned actors, and they found...
That's a great point. That I think it's glossed over. Like commercials are all happy. You never do a horror commercial.
Yeah, she hadn't done any acting before this.
This Newt girl.
Yeah, they did, or whatever it was about it. They just kind of Henn. They just kind of clicked into her or something like that. They just kept bringing her back to re-audition.
Sometimes that is the best formula. Somebody who hasn't really done a lot, you get your best work out of them.
I guess, I think it was, her father was American and her mother was British, so sometimes she kind of fluctuates between the two different accents in the film a little bit.
Did she grow up in Great Britain, or was it...
Well, I think her father was like a military guy stationed over in the UK.
Okay. So chances are she did.
Possibly.
In which case, that means she probably would have leaned British, because...
But in interviews today, she sounds completely American, so it just kind of
She does, this girl here, she does the convention circuit.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit. And it's so funny, because they always put up the picture of her here.
Right, and she's 30 years older now.
Right, she's older than us, and... she's probably 45 years old in as we record this, and probably looks nothing like this. And you're like, oh yeah, that was me. I was 9. We did a thing. Here's my autograph for $40. I'm always an advocate for meeting people and getting pictures and autographs when they're of the age that they like, when they're current,
right?
Just so you can remember,
right?
I had the pleasure of meeting the little boy who played Georgie in It, the most recent, the newest It films, and
before he hit a growth spurt or something.
Yeah. I mean,
which a few of them apparently did by the second film,
and all of them.
Yeah,
and but he was great, and he still looks like little Georgie, and. So at least that photo will always look like the person, and you don't have to go, wait, who is that again? That being said, my conversation with Miko Hughes was tremendous.
Oh, Miko's awesome.
Even though he doesn't look anything like he did.
They had no beard stubble back in the day.
No. What I do like about this, let's go back to Aliens now.
Sure.
Sorry, folks.
It's a long film.
I can take a left turn like nobody's business. What I do like about this, and which I'm sure is lost on the theatrical, is that here she gets a chance to actually be a mother.
Right.
And having the idea that she had her own daughter, and the daughter's since passed away, and whatever, makes her a more... You look at her relationship as Newt's surrogate mother completely differently than you would have just, dinner? That you would if you were just casually viewing this as a...
Interesting bit here. For this scene, Lance originally had like a double pupil contact lens made for him, but I guess It did shoot some stuff with it. I guess Cameron cut it. He just might have felt just a little too strange.
Well, the idea is that he's supposed to present as a human.
Right.
So the more stuff you give him that presents him not as a human, takes
the more
away.
Putting it in.
Right.
Yeah.
It takes away.
Because he felt like, sounded like when he's looking through the microscope, stuff like that, he would take on a different mode or something like that in his receptors or something like that. But Lance is a lot like that. He goes through such a rigorous process trying to develop the character and do research and stuff like that and kind of create different things that a lot of them probably get little. Some will get integrated, some of it won't get integrated.
He is, excuse me, he is kind of a method actor.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite Daniel Day-Lewis,
right?
But he definitely wants to know.
He digs himself into the psychology and everything like that.
He wants to know the whole backstory, even if there isn't
fully,
one presented. Yeah,
that's a great shot.
Access ramp 31. You're telling me there's at least 30 others?
They didn't come out of that. I think they walked around the back.
Yeah,
of
no shit. They're taller than it is.
Yeah.
It's like a goddamn clown car. How many of them are supposed to be in there?
Right. Like I say, it's like about half the size it's supposed to be.
That's why I was so confused when they were like, "Oh, it's clear and everything's safe." They'd only searched about,
1% of the complex.
Right. Because now they look at a video and they go, "Oh, look, they're all over here."
Yeah.
On a different floor in a different part of the building.
Yeah, in a different building altogether.
And you're like, "Wait, I thought it was clear." It's like a video game. And this is really before the big Nintendo boom.
Yeah, right on the cusp of it.
Well, the fact that Nintendo existed and that you could get a few games didn't.
Quick thing. This is the only shot remaining where James Remar is still in the film. Because it's all shot from behind. Because the entire sort of cocoon type of thing.
Right.
That was all like an in-camera effect shot, and they didn't want to have to go back and redo it, so they used just enough of it before Remar would turn to the camera and you would see his face.
Interesting.
But as you were saying in the first film, when we went inside the derelict ship, this kind of reflects the thought you had there. It's like maybe there's a possibility that the alien burst through and refashioned the ship with all this cocooned substance, everything. Because it looks exactly the same.
Right, so it's hard to say if the ship that they searched in the first one was actually the alien ship, or if it was just another ship of another somebody that they took over.
Right.
He does have those one-liners that you're like... I mean, it's written so that you're annoyed with him. I get it.
All right.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of activity.
Yeah.
I guess what I meant about the Nintendo thing is that it wasn't... There weren't, 75 or 100 games to choose from.
Yeah.
At the...
I still remember the photograph we had on the Christmas morning where we opened the presents. There we had the Nintendo Entertainment System. It's me just with my arms wrapped around the box.
Well, yeah.
Ecstatic like living hell.
I didn't get mine until about 1988.
It would have been earlier than that for us.
I was reminiscing back to my childhood. Mm-hmm. Why is it we can't fire a gun?
Well, because they said this is right underneath some kind of some unit that if you started firing stuff off, it could rupture things and blow the entire place to smithereens.
Got it. Smithereens is underused.
Why they don't just go out and just tell them that, I have no idea, because then that creates this whole thing where these two kind of just go ahead and say, fuck off, we're just going to do whatever we want anyway. If there's that much of a danger, I would, as the person calling the shots, I would tell them, hey, this is a very dangerous area to be firing stuff off in.
Right, here's
why.
Exactly.
So you know what the situation is, so you don't do something irrational.
To put everybody in danger.
Right, so
genius with the Steadicam rig.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know how the Steadicam works.
Well,
I don't know
it's sort of a counterbalance system. So you got the camera up here,
and the camera sits in front of your face.
Right. So you've got the shoulder harness and the entire crane arm or whatnot. So everything can remain one counterbalance, and you can keep everything obviously steady and everything like that. So it's all just using counterbalance and weight and stuff like that to make sure that you maintain
right. So as you move, the camera moves with you. Right.
So you're not getting a handheld type of thing. Everything's in a very stabilized position.
And all these bodies are just like strung up.
Mm-hmm.
And we assume they're all dead, right? They are. Or at some point does one of them...
Well, one of them does come out because it's about to burst.
I see.
So they're all cocooned here, being implanted.
But I also don't understand...
From the face huggers.
I guess is that a... Like, I am still sketchy, even though we talked about this in the first one. I'm sketchy on the life cycle of the alien.
Yes, some of the other films in the expanded franchise don't play by the same timelines that we saw in the first film.
And so we're to believe that the aliens have captured these people and held them here just so that facehuggers can get on them and breed babies inside.
Right. I love this. Her reaction to the entire thing is again another reason why she earned that goddamn Oscar.
It's visceral.
Right. And she's seeing this. Right now she's flashing right back to when Kane started convulsing right on the dinner table. And in her own nightmares.
Little wormy thing just kind of dangling there. Awesome. Absolutely awesome shot. Like, you can't even tell what it is you're looking at, but it's so big.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, kind of just creepy crawly. Like, all you see are limbs and tentacles, and you kind of don't have an idea of size proportion, other than it's big. Look up.
And the fact that they blend right into the scenery.
Right. Camouflage, as it were. Look at this. Look at that. It's so good.
And they did some slight alterations to the design, because the one in the first one had like a dome head, but they took it off for this one because they felt it was going to crack with all the kind of stunt work that was going on. So it's a much more like a rigid skull.
Yeah, I was going to say it was very, it was smooth.
Yeah. And they kind of flip-flop between that and the further sequels and everything.
Right, because I want to say the classic imagery is the smooth, rounded head.
Right.
Well, you got to change it up.
Yeah. I'm not entirely certain if they quartered H.R. Giger to help with this. If they did, I don't think they ended up getting him soon enough. So it was just James Cameron and Sam Winston putting all this stuff together. And apparently made those suits a little bit more flexible and more durable for all this physicality they had to go through.
I'm guessing that they also had an actual actor in the costume.
I think they said they had like dancers or something like that. People who just hadn't worked with body language.
Okay.
That
makes sense. That makes sense. Probably tall and lanky.
Yeah. I think they do a lot of wire work with them when they're jumping around the sets and everything.
She knows what's up.
Yeah, he's not up for this at all, man. I want to see back behind a desk, back on Earth.
Is that the same guy who had only done 2 flights or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
He ain't cut out for field work, man.
Yeah, she needs to just take command.
Yeah.
Like, fuck!
Yeah.
She's going to get him. Wait, they were supposed to be inside this thing?
Yeah.
Your size perspective is
way
you really undersold that, because
it's becoming more and more obvious.
There's not room for 2 people in there, let alone an entire crew. Let alone
the fucking wheels take up half the freaking space.
I didn't realize that their base of operations was inside this vehicle.
Yes.
I thought it was like, I don't know what I thought, but I was wrong. There you go, just ram them.
Yeah, and talking about the score again, because you're talking about
Horner
and Cameron and whatnot, because Horner came on the film in such a haphazard way, where again post-production was still going up to the wire, and he didn't really get to do the score how he wanted to do it and stuff like that, and him and Cameron just got into a whole
they were butting heads?
Yeah, in a certain way, it wasn't going well between them, and it wasn't until you did Titanic over like 13 years later that wasn't 13. It was maybe about 10 years later or whatnot. That Cameron went back to him and like, hey, I want you to do this and stuff like that. But it really just became a very kind of a blown up situation where it just wasn't beneficial to anyone, unfortunately, in terms of just a working relationship. But kind of the interesting thing with James Horner in the 80s that he constantly recycled cues from films he worked on.
Okay, yep.
Like he would work on a Roger Corman film, then he'd go on to a Star Trek film and use different pieces of music he used in the Corman film, the Star Trek film, then stuff from the Star Trek film goes into something else, and then it goes over into Alien. So he just kept recycling pieces of music over and over again for like 5 or 6 different films in a row.
Yeah. I was looking at his career here.
Yeah.
He really did a bunch of like major films.
Oh yeah, a lot of them.
Holy cow! But I was wrong about. I thought that he and Cameron worked together a lot. It would appear that it was just those two.
Okay.
Oh wait, no, he did do Avatar,
Okay,
and he did.
That's what I thought.
And he did get nominated for that as well.
Okay. Yeah, watching this the other day, this main action cue is like sounds exactly like the theme he put together for the Klingons in Star Trek 3. So it just all came back around to me. It's like, yeah, not like it's bad quality, but when we watched a couple of these films he did, it's like it's all just the same stuff over and over again. It was a little of a disappointment, but the fact that he came in and he didn't have as much time to get things done the way he wanted to, I can kind of give him a little kind of sympathy on that regard. He wanted like another 4 weeks to do more with the score of it, but they cut him short. And because him and Cameron got in such a bad working relationship on this thing, when they ended up doing the special edition a couple years later, they didn't court him to come back to do anything more with it.
I like the big hand up. See, here's another whiny.
Yeah. Yeah, it as much as people really like Paxton, this whole thing, I just feel like anyone who would buckle under the least amount of pressure in this whole thing would never make it into any military organization.
Right, yeah. Is not behaving like a Marine. Especially the Marines, right? They're Marines, is it?
Yeah.
Marines are regarded as like...
elite.
Right. The toughest branch to get into and survive. Everything he just says is so whiny and...
Yeah. There we go. Can bill me. That's great. Yeah.
Oh, get out of here.
You can see his fucking agendas creeping in there.
God. He's got the dollar signs rolling in his eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Like Gene Simmons in 1996. What does she want to do? Blow it up? Blow it up? Okay.
Just drop a nuke on it and say goodbye. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that whiny bastard in the corner is now in charge of everything?
No. Michael Biehn's character.
Oh, Michael Biehn.
That's Private Hudson, the corporal hits.
Got it. See? I don't know which one's which. The hell do I know? To be fair, we're not actually, we're not like reading and watching the movie as if it were theatrical. We're having casual conversation and observation. And I don't know what I had for breakfast, so, whatever. Some of these scenes, they have these pops of color, so everything is like completely dull, except for one thing is like in color, and whether it be her red bandana or the yellow cord or his green jacket, or in one scene it was like a yellow... I don't know if it was a vehicle or a piece of a building or something, and you're like one set piece stands out. I don't know if that's to draw your attention away from how I don't know, the fact that it's a set. You know what I mean? Like, it draws your eye to something. But, I mean, look at how bright yellow that cord is compared to the rest of the scene. Mm-hmm. Oh, hi. Love it. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. Well, at least it didn't explode before it hit, in midair, before it even hit the ground. If it had gone off a cliff, it would have exploded in midair.
Sure.
But since it was already in the air...
mm-hmm.
Don't you just want him to die?
Mm-hmm.
Look at this kind of hero shot.
Yeah.
The wind machine. She is great, though. Newt. Everyone keeps getting dirtier and dirtier, like...
Sure.
Like the guy, Bruce Willis's shirt in Die Hard.
Okay.
Or eventually they just switch to a brown shirt.
Oh, look at her now.
What does that say? Casino. Oh, I love a casino.
There we go.
Sign me up. I love to lose money at a casino. Unfortunately, there's a casino 5 minutes from my house.
No, boy.
I do have a lot of self-restraint, though. Was that our midpoint when the ship crashed and they can't go away?
I'm not sure exactly what the midpoint of this cut is, though.
Would it be maybe when she...
Because it's got about an hour and 10 minutes left.
All right, we're an hour 27 in, so we're a little past. Maybe it was when she takes over action.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
She says, all right, I'm in charge now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I love her. And her little Private Benjamin hat. The lighting in this is really spectacular. I think they did a really great job. Maybe it's the Blu-ray, and the upscaling and whatever that...
Yeah, and 4K transfer. I think there's a 4K transfer. But
well, either way, it looks better than what we grew up with.
Yeah. And they had one cinematographer on originally, but he was not vibing at all with James Cameron. I guess he was like an old school type of camera guy. It was like, I'm going to light it and shoot it how I feel it should be shot. Well, it doesn't matter what the director wants. I'm going to do it the way I want to, and you know how Cameron is.
Yeah, I do.
Cameron's hard driving type of guy. This is the way I want it. That's the way it's going to be. However long it takes to get it, I'm going to get it. So
I think
so they got rid of that guy, and the guy they actually got was from Ridley Scott's sort of commercial production company to do all the commercials and everything like that. So he was from a Ridley Scott school of doing things, and he ended up doing. Trying to remember everything he did. Like right after this, he did The Princess Bride, and he did The Mummy Returns, and a bunch of other things here and there. So he was a really good cinematographer, Adrian Biddle.
I think that there's got to be a give and take and a relationship between the two.
Right.
And I don't think James Cameron is opposed to somebody saying, let me try doing it this way and see if you like it.
Right.
But there has to be a
collaboration.
Collaboration, right.
Right.
Like, you can't just go in and say,
right,
I'm, my way or the highway, because Cameron's going to say, there's the highway.
I tend to kind of view almost like two different styles of cinematographers. There's ones who they'll come on and they'll adapt to whatever the filmmaker wants, and they'll do it just the way they want. Or there's ones they'll bring in, they'll go the extra mile and do something more with it, like a Roger Deakins does. Like, you can tell a Roger Deakins shot film, like Skyfall or something like that, when you see it, because he's got an extra level of detail and artistic eye to everything to really improve upon what the director wants.
Maybe like a Dean Cundy.
Dean Cundy as well, yeah. He's
a guy who would go in and say, all right, I have an idea how to make this look spectacular.
Yes.
What do you think, Mr. Carpenter?
Yeah.
But then, in other shots, I'm sure Carpenter says, I want it specifically, or Cameron to say, here's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
And you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Right.
Yeah, she's 87. You don't want that.
But their relationship between Sigourney and Michael Biehn, it's so very good. I was trying to think, like, had James Remar in there, I think he still would have done a really good job. I think he is a New York actor. He would have had a little bit more of a New York sort of hard edge to the character. I think Biehn plays a little softer. So I still think that chemistry would have been good either way. But Biehn really shows his quality here. To come in on last minute and gel with her so well.
Here again, you feel differently about this scene knowing that she's a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Or was a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like her shot at redemption.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just a nice scene with a lady and her and a girl. This is also beautifully lit.
Mm-hmm.
This is a heartbreaking scene.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain a lot of this scene probably
wasn't in the
might
original.
not have been. I don't recall this scene in the other version as much. Maybe they cut it down.
Yeah, they had to have cut it down.
Yeah.
That's not the locator you just gave her, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. But I mean the scene or the line there where she says, "Why did they tell little kids that?" Like, there's something about a little kid asking an adult a question about little kids that it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it's.
Cameron, man,
it reflects so much that the kid has been through a lot more than any other kid should, and she's had to grow up real fast in this situation. So she's not really a little kid as much anymore.
Right. they're both probably 50 years older than they appear. And it would make sense that she'd gravitate towards Newt because they're the two that have experienced the most of the same activity,
the most trauma.
Of a similar trauma.
Yes.
It's not like, your parents died and my parents died and we both know what that's like.
Mm-hmm.
It's our parents were both killed by the same thing.
Yeah.
I see we've moved on to the era of plastic saline bags. That transition must have happened sometime in the...
Oh, okay.
Between the 70s and the 80s. Where does the egg come from?
It's nice that they're introducing this discussion here before they just drop it on us somewhere.
Right.
Again, smart screenwriting. Which I don't have to overemphasize for James Cameron.
No. And it's a logical conversation.
Yes.
It's not exposition.
Right.
It's people actually pondering what could be and
Putting
what
things
could
together,
not. Right.
Yeah.
The same way that the audience is doing.
Right.
Who's asking these questions? Me.
Right.
The audience.
Right.
I literally just asked that question.
Right.
So what do? They have the character ask the question.
Right, because this whole thing is like, they didn't transport all the eggs that are in that cargo hold in the ship.
Somebody laid
from there
them,
to here. These are all new eggs being birthed out.
Birthed.
So that's the thing. After they found out from Ripley about the ship, he orders them to go out and explore and find the damn thing and bring it all the way back here.
How is that possible if it was 57 years ago?
No. When they sent Newt's family out to explore.
Oh, I see.
Granted, it still doesn't explain why they didn't find the damn thing that was probably like 10 kilometers away from the goddamn colony over the last fucking 10 years where the hell it's been.
Well, and if they didn't find the aliens, how come the aliens didn't find them?
Well,
that street goes two ways, in my opinion. Because they would have run out of food, and the aliens would have run out of...
Well, the fact that, when they came across in the first one, they're all just eggs. If they don't have anything to plant into, there's no alien.
Right. So
if they don't encounter someone else doesn't go into that derelict ship to be impregnated and birth out a xenomorph, then they're just eggs sitting there the whole time. Nothing would have gone from the ship to the colony.
All right.
Yeah, this whole sequence is added back into this version.
That is an awful lot of bullets, my friend. We're out of bullets. Like 2,000 bullets or something. And Bishop is in... No. I was going to say, I thought somebody was in the other area. And that thing's gonna blow, right?
Yeah.
Basically, is the point of all this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't listen to anything he says. I mean, he's got like
It is way too much panic.
Go away heat he's got from me.
Yeah.
Like, change the channel heat.
It is fine. I mean, it's fine if you have a character who is a little afraid and stuff like that, but just like the fact that he's always on the same level the entire time, every line delivery,
it's the same
is
tone
only on the top of the level there.
Right, the same tone.
Whether he's being comedic or he's being in panic mode, it's all the exact same level. There you go. It'll feel like a TV dinner here in a moment.
There you go, yeah.
I like this little bit here. She hands him the gun and he passes it off to her. He goes like, gun ain't gonna say, if he gets into trouble, the gun ain't gonna do him any goddamn good. Went to the coast, have a few laughs.
Oh my god. I thought the guns were out of bullets.
I guess they reloaded them, I suppose? I don't know.
D and C.
A and B went out.
Right, D and C are... Are there just that many aliens that it keeps mowing them down and they...
Well, it is motion activated, so anything that moves, it fires it, so it might not be that many of them.
Might be not hitting them, okay. Finally, after 4,000 rounds, they're retreating? It's quite a headphone setup he's got there. Why would they be wanting to go anywhere? Well, I mean, Lance Henriksen is on his way to go try to find whatever.
Get to the satellite so they can bring the other ship
Get the
down.
other ship.
Yeah.
So, why is anybody going anywhere?
Well, they're not going anywhere. They're trying to stave off the other xenomorphs from coming in there.
Yeah, but he just sent them, like, on a perimeter check or something.
Well, right, because they just said they just try to get in through where the sentry guns are. Now they're probably going to try to find another way in, so they want to make sure that everything is sealed off. Or
that makes sense.
They don't find some of the way into the place.
$1 million.
I guess Sigourney was not. She's not comfortable with guns, stuff like that. She's not a real big. I don't know if she's like vehemently anti-gun and stuff, but she's not very fond of them. So it was kind of an interesting relationship, her kind of handling weaponry in the film.
Slap it. Born again? Oh. That's disappointing. I like the diagram on the back wall there. I love maps and diagrams. I just marvel at the production design. Like, they had to make these machines with all the buttons and consoles, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, it's... She fit under there that easily? That's a great way of, pictures worth 1,000 words, explaining everything you need to know about Newt without any dialogue.
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting thing that there was a sequence in one of the script drafts where Bishop's going up to the tube and everything like that, and she does encounter an alien.
On the way?
Yeah, it's more of a suspense sequence, not an actual, real full attack, but there's supposed to be, something along the lines where it kind of detects, there's an alien near the tube and it detects motion, and there's a little bit of tension there and stuff like that, but it apparently got into, the novelization, and no one has a real full confirmation if it had been shot or not.
Novelization is so foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why anybody would want to go the other direction and make a book version of a movie.
Well, it was so much a thing, because a lot of it kind of started up before you really had the home video market, so it's after the thing leaves theaters, there's not really any way to re-experience it, so you get the novelization, you can read back through it, you can kind of experience it again in a certain way, or...
that makes sense, alright. I'd buy that.
In a sort of way in that regard. And a lot of the novelization would often be taken from, earlier script drafts. The one for the first film it describes the alien with big bug eyes, where that's not the way it was in the film at all.
Right.
So you'd always kind of find little odd peculiarities or stuff that ends up being cut from the later versions of the script and stuff like that.
This is the first time we've seen the face hugger
in action.
Right, moving and actually, I guess, mobile.
Right.
Her little hands tapping on the glass, and her little tiny help.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Now you just earned the Asshole of the Year award right there.
What a heel move! You prick! Great idea, kid. It ain't happening. Ow.
It's kind of like the scene in Scream 2. And the sound
Yeah,
booth.
there you go. That's where they stole this from.
Yeah. Well, they were talking earlier in that thing about the sequel's better than the original, and a little Alien versus Aliens talk there.
This one is highly regarded as, like, the better of the two. I don't know when we were going to discuss that, but I don't know. Maybe when we get to the closing credits,
Sure.
we can pontificate.
Yeah.
Good move starting the fire alarm.
Mm-hmm.
That was a nice little steady cam shot too.
Yeah.
It wasn't as long as you might think, but
Yeah.
really nice. There you go. It's like an octopus and a crab together. Didn't look as delicious though.
Yeah, no.
As either of those two items.
Yeah, they built this all kind of animatronics and wire rods. And
It looks
everything.
awesome.
Yeah, it's all Stan Winston's work.
Oh yeah.
See, he jumped through the window.
Right. Yeah. If you jump, you're fine.
Always good. Nice.
Jesus Christ.
Just want to make sure.
Well, if you know it goes in your mouth, keep your fucking mouth shut.
Well, it kind of comes down to an almost brilliant thing. It's like, well, it wraps around your throat, so you're gasping for air.
Right.
So you can't keep your mouth shut, and then it just shoots right in you.
Oh. Yep.
There we go. Mm.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they just don't kill him.
That's a nice line coming here.
Jim Cameron has such a great way of sticking
Boiling it down.
Yeah, sticking it right up your ass. Here's another one of those scenes where it's supposed to be pitch dark, but we have to light it so that the audience can see what's going on.
Well,
That'd be scary as hell to like know that, to see him on the motion sensor, but not be able to find them. Although they did the same trick in the first one.
A little bit, yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of things that they kind of repeated.
Well,
I mean, clearly they're different.
yeah.
But when you're in an enclosed space, there's really only so many stories you can tell without repeating some elements. Even when he's not talking, or when he is being serious, his cadence is still annoying as hell.
Yeah, yeah.
Isn't this the same thing that happened in the first one?
I don't recall anything like this happening in the first one. I mean, they had the whole thing with Dallas being inside the air ducts, but that's about it.
This is unbelievable. Can you imagine? Paul Reiser was the first one out of the room,
Yeah.
as any heel would be.
Yeah.
God, what an
What a
unlikable
fucking
character.
dick.
And it's so simple, too. And they just made everybody hate the guy so bad. And also, if you notice, he hasn't even said anything. Shutting off the video, closing the door. That's not dialogue.
No.
You don't need dialogue. Everyone always wants to write too much dialogue.
Yeah.
And there's a place for it. Tarantino over-talks his movies.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because they're all mostly brilliant. But there's something to be said for actions without dialogue. God, it's so good. Considering that we're 2 hours into this movie, there's still a lot of people left alive at this point.
Give it a few minutes there.
Well, I know, but I mean, you'd think that the pacing would be a little different.
Well, yeah, well, again, it's like with the theatrical, it moves much leaner.
What's the runtime on the theatrical?
Just over 2 hours.
Oh, so
It'd be wrapping up right about now.
From a studio point of view, though, I definitely can understand wanting it to be around 2 hours.
Right, similar blockbuster. These days it's different. Back then, 2 hours was about as long as you typically would want a film to be.
Which is interesting because, a generation prior to that, there were
3 hour long
three and 4 hour epics.
Ben-Hur and Cleopatra stuff, and
Gone with the Wind is 4 hours in 1939.
And then 15 years after this, you got Lord of the Rings, which were like 3.5 hours or something like that, and that breaks it up. It's like, well, as long as it's good enough, it doesn't matter how long the film generally is.
Right.
But there's always this thing like, well, if you make it shorter, we can get more screenings in per day and stuff like that. And that mentality in some cases really adversely affected a lot of different films over the years.
Well, by the time that became in fashion again, the cinemas got bigger.
Yeah.
So you could have multiple screens and multiple prints. A generation prior to this, when there were single houses, there were also only one movie coming out every 2 weeks or something. So it didn't matter.
Right.
You could have a 3-hour movie and just, that you were the only game in town for 2 weeks.
Even longer than that, maybe. I mean, even at this point in time, films would stay in theaters for almost a year.
That's nuts.
Like Jurassic Park, that film came out in like June of '93. It didn't come out on video until like the end of '94.
Christmas of '94.
Yeah. Because it just kept playing.
It also kept making money.
Right.
So,
of course, I don't want to know what those film prints look like after a year of running through the cinema.
oh my God.
Holy Christ.
I took a lot of pride in not scratching a movie. There's just so many of them. Ow.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh. She's on the big paddle wheel of life there. Isn't there a scene in a swimming pool coming up?
Something along those lines.
I'm not a big pre-watcher when we do these commentaries. I'd say it was probably been, I don't know, a year and a half or more, give or take. Yeah, this is what I knew she ended up in a body of water.
Yeah.
There's an iconic image, I think, of in the pool there. I did not watch this a lot as a kid. And by kid, I mean, the VHS era.
Sure.
Of when it was, new, or I was in my, it was probably late 90s, early 2000s when I really got into the aliens.
Yeah, I really didn't start watching until they hit DVD.
I had seen the first one, prior.
Yeah. I always feel like these shots are taken from the previous sequence because we end up only just seeing the one alien. There's not a swarm of them coming after them.
Oh, you mean on the little Geiger counter?
Yeah, the motion tracker. It was showing it like there's a swarm like they were in the room before, but you only see one.
You're right. They might have just reused the footage.
Mm-hmm.
the addition of a child makes it great in that it's not just another crew member that we're trying to save.
Right.
Uh-oh. There's that acid blood. You got to make sure you don't get that on you. If it'll eat through 9 layers of steel, Kevlar certainly isn't going to do anything. But you know what I mean? Like, you can't... having the child, it just gives an extra layer of story.
Right.
So he's remote controlling this other escape pod?
Yeah.
And did they determine that this extra area is in fact going to blow up? You can see the wires on the top. Yeah. It is in fact going to blow up regardless, or it's still possible that it will not?
I think it's for certain.
Okay.
Right. There ends up being like a countdown later on.
Right, that's what I thought. Now they got to go back and get the girl.
Right.
That looks a little CGI.
Yeah. Some of the optical effects work in the film does stand out a little off, and some of the things they're doing how they photograph some of the flying models just feels a little like they should have shot some things a little bit more of a slow motion thing to give it a little bit more weight, how it moves in some places.
I would take that one bad CGI shot over anything that happens today in lieu of just practical effects.
Right. But I mean, this film did win the Oscar that year, but I'm a lot in the belief, because Star Trek 4 came out the same year, and I reviewed it last year, and there's shots, visual effects shots in that film that you can't even tell they're actual visual effects shots. They're that good. It didn't get nominated. They completely ignored the whole film. I think that, I'm personally believe that film should have won the visual effects thing, because there's not a flaw in any of the visual effects in that film at all, period.
And this in fact, this won the Oscar that year?
Yes. Because in Star Trek 4, a lot of things in Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, they're a lot of centers around these humpback whales. They go extinct at a certain point in time, and they go back in time. Regardless of the case, they have a lot of visual effect shots with these humpback whales that even fooled PETA. The thing they actually shot and were kind of abusing real things.
Oh, wow.
They're all animatronic.
Nice.
They completely fooled everyone. The film never got nominated for visual effects at all, and it just bothers me a lot. I'm not saying that the visual effects in this aren't good, but they'll look like visual effects shots. They're very specific in that regard. In the Trek film, a lot of them, you can't even tell.
I guess if I were more in the know, I'd be hot about it too.
Right.
I am hot about a lot of Oscar upsets, so.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
And coming full circle, if anybody listened to our most recent commentary, the movie that won Best Picture in 1986 is, of course, my favorite Vietnam movie of all time, Platoon, which we talked about a little bit in our last commentary.
You know who also won an Oscar in 1986?
Would that be Mr. Paul Newman?
Michael Caine. Well,
yes. Well, Michael Caine won Best for Supporting Actor. Yeah.
Yes.
And I believe,
and that was the one where he was off shooting Jaws: The Revenge at the time, so he couldn't accept his Oscar.
Well, God bless him.
But yeah, Paul Newman won for Color of Money, where I don't know. It's not a Scorsese best in my regard.
It's not.
It's pretty average film. I watched it a couple times. It never really did much for me.
The Hustler is so good, and I don't know, to have a sequel however many years later.
Yeah, it's like 20 years or something like that.
And it was one of those, it was a Lifetime Achievement Award.
I'd imagine it's more that regard.
Ripley and a flamethrower just go like peanut butter and jelly, don't they? And while I was bloviating about the Oscars, she's on her own here. Are the other ones, did she just get separated from the pack? I wasn't really paying attention.
Well,
because I know
Hicks
that
gets hit with the acid. He's injured, so she put him up on the ship.
Right.
And Bishop is piloting the ship, and he said...
And that's all that's left?
That's it.
Okay, she's after Newt. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I thought
Everyone else got blown up or taken... Hudson got pulled through the frickin' floor.
Right. Yum.
And she's leaving a trail for herself.
Right, you gotta have the breadcrumbs to know how to get back. It's brilliant. Oh, this is where she encounters the Queen, isn't it?
It's getting there.
Ugh.
And there was an added sequence here that is in the deleted scenes where she encounters Paul Reiser's character cocooned, and I think she burns him up.
I like that. Do they not show what happens to him otherwise?
No. Once you had that scene where he ducks out and encounters the alien, and nothing else happened. Nothing is seen.
I kind of like the idea of having closure on that relationship.
I think it was just the fact that it probably just slowed down the sequence more than it needed to.
Yeah,
because you're on the track of her trying to get Newt, diverting away for like a minute or something like that to deal with him. Just felt a little. You gotta keep on a straight and narrow path at this point in the film.
Yeah, it's ramping up. Your heartbeat's going up.
Right.
You're
right. You don't need to lull it down to kind of tie up his stuff.
Although I do think that some closure on that story would have been good.
Yeah, it would have been nice. This is kind of terrible because this is all like fiberglass stuff. And when Sigourney comes up there, she's got to rip it apart with her bare hands, and she'd cut herself up on it.
Ugh.
Yeah. Very phlegmy. Lots of mucus in there.
Yeah, that's gross.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Oh yeah, I see what
Yeah.
you mean. It's like
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
But there is that goo.
Yeah, a little like, I don't know, some kind of petroleum jelly or something over it.
Well, you know what's funny is I when I was a kid I had a VHS making of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4.
Sure, yeah.
And Screaming Mad George, who did the special effects on that, was talking about that scene with Brooke Thies and the cockroach.
Yeah, yeah.
And how they used a substance that was basically the same, like pectin thickening agent that they use for jelly donuts.
Okay. Wow.
So that's what I think of every time I see any sort of like stringy goo.
Okay.
Is I think of like jelly donuts and Screaming Mad George.
So,
Ugh. There's the birthing of the egg.
Yucky.
What in the fuck?
Yeah.
On VHS, that would have looked more intimidating because here it's so clear that you can tell that it's like just a couple of bed sheets with some stuff in it. But look at this.
Oh man, yeah. I think at the time this was like the largest rod puppet type of thing that had been put together for film.
I've always wanted to meet the Queen. That must be the Prince. Can you get down now, honey?
Wait.
I need both hands. Don't step on any eggs. Why wouldn't you start with her?
Well, it's a warning type of thing.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Back off or I'll light it all up. Like you're saying, you don't need dialogue. Have her demonstrate.
Well, yeah.
And send a message here.
I would just think... I guess if she starts...
Well, she knows the thing's going to blow up anyway, so she's just trying to get the hell out of there.
That makes sense.
Reeboks.
I was going to say, did I see a Reebok logo there? I wonder if they paid for that. Stuff like that fascinates me. As you probably know from 100 commentaries worth of me going...
I think they might have reissued that for like the 30th anniversary or something like that. It's a limited edition type of thing.
The Ripley shoe?
Yeah, probably. It seems like they would have done that.
Oh, she's pissed now.
Aye.
For somebody who doesn't like guns, she sure is doing well. Oh, God, the squirting.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Goopy.
Oh, it's goopy's a great word for it. Look at it. I think those are like egg yolks coming out of there. Oh, God. Oh, it's just squirting all over the place. Does that work?
Apparently it will.
I don't know about that. Maybe. See, now you just done pissed it off. I don't know why you wouldn't...
That's gross.
Oh, good God. She's like separating from the egg sac, I guess is what that was. Ugh. And I guess this is what I meant when I was talking about the similarities to the first one, in that there's a countdown and it's going to explode, and we got to get to the escape ship, and then the alien goes in the escape ship, and then we got to send it through the airlock.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same formula.
Yeah. You have to blow out the airlock and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, blow it out your airlock. They are terrifying. Stan Winston did a great job at making me afraid as an audience member. I I can't imagine how hot it would be in there.
Ooh.
With all of the fire and the explosions and... Like, that metal would be hot. You wouldn't be able to grab onto that.
Mm.
Not like having your car stolen. That'd be the worst. Again, the practical effects here.
Yeah, everything falling down around her, yeah.
Right. I mean, sure, she's not actually in a warehouse full of burning pipes.
Right.
Or boiler room or whatever, but... Like, that railing is real and all that debris is real.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
And he just rode the elevator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. He always saves the day, doesn't he? Our boy. Was that supposed to be the queen?
Where?
That in the elevator that followed?
Yeah.
Okay. Because they didn't have the perspective, you know. It just felt like another alien.
Okay.
To me. I mean, she was smart enough to know how to ride the elevator, so I guess that makes her the queen. That doesn't look so great.
No, they should have put a little fog in front of it to kind of simulate the atmosphere.
I seem to remember Lance's role being bigger. Like, when I think back, I feel like he's got more screen presence. I guess I'm just remembering a lot of this, you know, the end of the movie.
Okay.
And misremembering.
Okay.
Yeah, that doesn't look all that great. It looks better in the black than it does in the blue. Of course, the one guy that we don't like. And, you know, she's beginning to trust him. Like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he liked milk. Because he sure did a great job of spitting it out for...
Sure hope so. Oh.
Oh, rip the guy right in half. If I were to take my tape player or, you know, my boombox and break it in half, one speaker still wouldn't work. So I don't know how they made it believable, but they did.
Mm.
See how much bigger it looks here
Yeah.
than in the elevator? You see why you'd be confused,
Yeah.
right? Like, she can't catch a break. You know?
Mm.
Look at those guts. Just tubes and...
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of great effects, and I've not seen that Star Trek film to compare.
Sure, I know.
But,
Just for our listeners.
oh, sure. I mean, I don't know what the other nominees were that year, but...
There was... Stupid thing. No. Little Shop of Horrors was on it.
Okay.
Give me a second. I gotta
Little
look back
Feed
to
Me
things.
Seymour. I watched that as a kid, and I don't know, it didn't really do it for me. I haven't revisited it in a long time.
Yeah.
I'm so glad this made a comeback, because they made such a big deal about her being able to operate it.
Little Shop of Horrors and Poltergeist 2 were the only other visual effects nominations.
Poltergeist 2?
No one likes Poltergeist 2.
No, not a lot of people like Poltergeist 1.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not true, I don't know.
Hmm.
I'm going to get some hate tweets for that.
Hmm.
It's fine. We do appreciate all the fun comments that people put on the old YouTube page here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for listening. We love interacting with y'all. Now it's got this little scorpion tail thing as well.
When I was watching this the other day, it's like it's definitely a sequence that needed a little music behind it. It just lacking a little something.
It feels a little naked, yeah.
Yeah, because when you're down on the planet, you got all the sound effects kind of making things, so you don't want to put too much score in there and kind of jumble it all up. Now there's not a lot happening audio-wise. It's just hydraulic sound effects and a few pieces of hissing and whipping.
Hissing, grunting. We have grunting.
It does. Again,
hissing, whipping, grunting.
It's a very long climax on the film, so you want to kind of keep as much of that high suspense going.
I agree with this.
That was a miniature shot with the thing.
I love that the crane goes in also, or the robot.
Yeah.
You know, your first reaction is, oh, she grabs it and tosses it in and it's over.
Yeah.
But you have the apparatus go in with, and now she has to escape even one more time in her Reeboks.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Even though it's the exact same with the airlock.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Just a larger
It goes
scale.
half of Lance Henriksen.
Yeah. They apparently did some digital kind of touch-ups for the Blu-ray because I think there's a wider shot coming up when Lance is on the floor there. See if it comes up.
I think they do cut back.
Yeah.
Well, there goes the Queen.
Mm-hmm.
The story's over.
Mm-hmm.
We can never have another one.
But now the music comes back in for this instead.
It is weird.
This is a little.
It is
lopsided.
weird.
Yeah, in this part, before the Blu-ray, you could see the lower half of Lance coming up through the bottom through the floor. So they
Oh, really?
They digitally touched that up for the Blu-ray. Apparently, there's a couple other shots they did little touch-ups here and there, but that's the one I was the most aware of.
I love looking for that stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, you hear it's just his arms and his head.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "Mommy."
Mm.
Great time to crack a joke. Her hair definitely feels shorter here. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's...
Just because it's wet and sweaty.
Right. Or if maybe they just gave her a trim and...
Yeah. It's the last time you see his character.
Unfortunately. There was comeuppance that was needed and we didn't get it. And now she gets a chance to be a mom again. Because when they land, everybody will live happily ever after. And there will be no more story ever again.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's not how it goes?
Not in Alien 3.
Oh, okay.
We don't know if we're getting that far in the franchise. This might be it.
I watched it once. And apparently I watched the not as good version, according to you.
The theatrical.
I watched the theatrical. Roll credits here, okay. Tipping is a terrible name, as we've talked about.
No.
So, it's highly regarded as the better of the two by a lot of people. Some people say it's Cameron's best work, and I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. I prefer the first film. I do prefer Ridley Scott's film more. It's just more, in general, it's more my style in a certain way. I like how Ridley directs things. I like how he makes the film look overall. I like his slow burn style and stuff like that. With the special edition here, Cameron is going in some places for like the first hour of the film, a little bit of a slow burn type of thing. I don't feel like he's quite as good at it as Ridley Scott is. Cameron's a little bit more kind of a hit the ground running type of director in most of his films. On this, I mean,
by the way, I don't know. I not to cut you off,
sure.
But there was a unit director whose name was Jeff Freeman,
oh, right.
and I'm like, did I read that right? I did. Old Jeffrey. Go ahead, Mario Andretti.
But yeah, I mean, with the first film, I generally like the characters overall because, again, they feel textured, they feel real, stuff like that. This one...
It's an action movie.
Yeah, because a lot of the characters are a little more two-dimensional, a little bit more kind of played as almost more like a cartoon character in a certain way. So, and as good as the effects generally are, they stretch the dollar amount as far as they possibly could. I still feel like they're not as well polished as the first film is.
It definitely feels...
They had visual... In the first film, it had visual effects shots that didn't feel like they were visual effects. They felt a little bit more immersive. This one feels a little more like I am watching a special effects film.
Yeah, this one feels bigger. It feels more grandiose. Mm-hmm. It feels, like a summer action blockbuster, mm-hmm. as opposed to a psychological thriller that kind of disguises itself as a horror movie
right.
in the first one. I didn't really feel a lot of horror in this.
No, Cameron wasn't really going for horror as much. Maybe not jump scares, but just generally just jolts you into a moment.
Adrenaline rush.
Yeah, adrenaline rush type of things.
Which
I mean, his entire thing was, I'm not going to do what Ridley Scott did in general. I'm going to make a combat film, not really a horror film.
Right. And to that end, as much as I love James Cameron, and I am an apologist of James Cameron all day long, I think I tend to agree. I think, not to say this is bad by any means, but if you said pick one, I think I'm taking the first one.
Yeah. I just enjoy. I just think that the artistry across the board on Ridley Scott's film is just much more of a consistent, high-playing level. Because with the first film, you know that if you had a lesser director, it would have come off like a B movie. With Ridley Scott involved, he elevates the entire film to another degree that's not a B movie. It has more class to it in a certain degree. It has more artistic way of executing the ideas and the set pieces and all the different things going on with it. So I think really elevated things a lot more. I think Cameron still delivered a good film here, but I feel like a lot of his stuff is just more along his type of regard and making more of a slam-bang, straightforward action movie and not trying to elevate it to a different degree than what the concept calls for.
I do wish that Paul Reiser had gotten a little comeuppance, though.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
I wish that there would have been something.
Yeah.
But I guess eaten by the alien is enough.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks for joining us for...
It's been 100 for me.
For this one.
It's been like 111 or something for you, but...
Something along those lines, yeah.
But 100 for me, I can't believe it. 5 years, it's been great. So, thanks.
So, guys, thanks so much for joining us, and see you around soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.